Today we're going to show you how to convert a powered work cart to electric. This is a new factory-built frame which was designed for a 1,200 pound carrying capacity and has an 11 cubic foot tub. It would have been powered by a 6.5 horsepower two-stroke gas engine. Instead, we're going to power it with a clean and quiet electric motor and batteries. I think this Ryobi 40 volt brushless motor should be a good fit. I salvaged this one from a broken lawnmower, but there's lots of these motors out there. They're great little motors and you can get them quite inexpensively. With the cart on its side, you can see where the engine would have mounted. If you have a motor that matches these holes, it's literally a bolt-in replacement. If the hole pattern on your motor is different, you'll need to drill a few holes before bolting down your motor. I have a V-belt pulley here. It happens to be a 2.5 inch diameter with a 1/2 inch bore. I'm going to slide it on the shaft, making sure it's in line with the input pulley on the transmission, and then tighten down the set screw. Next, we need a belt and tensioner. The only belt I had handy was a little too long, but I'd fix that on the next trip to the hardware store. I rigged up a temporary tensioner just to test things out. Turning the motor by hand with the transmission in gear, I could see the wheels turning and make sure they were spinning the right direction. To control the speed of the motor, we'll use an inexpensive e-bike motor controller available by mail order. Although it may look complicated, it's really just 2 wires to the batteries, 3 wires to the motor, and the throttle wires. Many of the extra wires on the controller aren't even going to be used at all. I already had the controller, 2 battery holders, and throttle hooked up on a little test rig I was playing with, so I only needed to connect the 3 wires to the motor to test it out. Once I did that, I just had to turn on the power, put the machine in gear, and press the throttle. And as a test, it worked great. The cart still had its gas tank in place, but because this was new equipment, I didn't even have to drain the tank. All I had to do was pull out the screws holding on the tank and the bracket. I'll set the bracket to the side, but I think I might want to reuse it. For example, I could use it as a mount for my construction radio. The black plastic cover is hollow inside and mostly just covers the gear selector. It's just held on by a couple of screws. But this area looks like a good place to mount some sort of instrumentation. More on that in a couple of minutes. After I test fit the motor controller and batteries in the front compartment, it was time to mount the tub. There's 4 1/4 inch holes in the frame. I'll use 1/4-20 bolts, nylock nuts, and fender washers to mount the tub in place. I located the holes by drilling up from below with an 1/8 inch drill bit. Then from above, I could drill a 1/4 inch hole through the plastic, insert a bolt and fender washer, and tighten down the nylock nuts. Once the tub was in place, I took it outside to test the wheelbarrow. Since it's winter, I thought I'd maybe move some firewood. The whole machine feels really rugged, and I was able to move a pile of wood with considerably less effort than with a plain wheelbarrow. I also tested the wheelbarrow in all 3 transmission speeds plus reverse, just going up and down my driveway. Top speed in 3rd gear was a little slower than I wanted, so I would plan to address that by changing the gearing with a different size pulley. While I was testing, I wanted to see how much torque the cart had. Sure enough, it had no trouble towing my car up my driveway, a slight upward incline. Well, I could have just easily have used an inexpensive e-bike throttle like the one I was using for my testing. I decided that I wanted a separate speed control. All this is a 0 to 10 kilo ohm potentiometer with a resistor added to both the positive and negative wires. The throttle signal wire remains unchanged. I prototyped a clear plastic panel to hold the speed potentiometer and other parts, but then I realized that if I just removed this caution sign, which was only riveted on, I'd have plenty of room in the middle to mount my control. I used a Dremel and drill to cut out space for my components. That included a multimeter display, my potentiometer, and lastly, a power switch. Now let's take a look at the back of the panel. Since all these components are low current, I just repurposed some old data cable to run from the motor controller under the machine to this panel. I used the diagram on the back of the multimeter to connect that and hooked up the throttle wires to the potentiometer. I had a momentary on switch in series with the potentiometer's positive wire so that the machine would only run while that button is pressed down. The multimeter isn't essential to the project and could have been skipped entirely, but it gives me plenty of information and is useful for testing. With the transmission in neutral, I tested the momentary on switch and it worked well. It would turn the motor on and off at whatever preset speed I had the dial set at. Of course, I could also adjust the speed while the motor was already spinning. I had also found a heat sink that fits this motor. It's an aluminum finned extrusion that just snaps onto the motor. Frankly, it's probably not even needed, but since I had it, I'm going to use it. Since everything tested well, it was now time to properly assemble the project. We'll start by putting the motor in place and then bolting it down with the 4 1/4-20 bolts and nylock nuts. Next, we'll install the pulley, lining up the flat of the shaft with the set screw. Now remember, this is a 4-inch diameter pulley because I determined I needed different gearing when I was testing. I used a rubber mallet to tap the pulley on and then tighten the set screw. Earlier, I had built a tensioner. I simply bought an idler pulley and some flat steel. I drilled a few holes through the flat stock. Then I could use 1/4-20 bolts to mount the idler to the end of the bar and the bar to the frame where there was already an existing threaded hole. I then connected a spring from the bar to a bolt I put through another existing frame hole. The tensioner goes on the slack side of the belt and keeps the belt snug on the pulleys. So now we can loop the belt around the transmission pulley, push the tensioner to the side, and loop the belt around the motor pulley. This is a common stock V-belt, 40 inches long by 1/2 inch wide. You should be able to turn the pulley by hand and see the belt spin the transmission input. Now let's build a panel to hold the motor controller and batteries. I'm using a scrap laminated plywood about 1 foot tall, and I'm cutting it to the width of the engine compartment, which is about 20 inches. Then I test fit the panel and marked where I would want the 2 battery holders to go. I also marked the position for the power cutoff key. At the marked locations, I drilled a pair of 1 5/8 inch holes for the battery holders. I'm using Ryobi 18-volt batteries and holders because I have plenty of Ryobi tools, but you can also buy similar holders for other brands such as DeWalt or whatever brand of tool batteries you already have. Alternatively, you could use a pair of AGM batteries and simply mount them on either side of the electric motor. The battery holders drop through the holes and are then held in place with a few screws. I also drilled a 7/8 inch hole for the power disconnect. The disconnect then also gets held in place with a pair of screws. Now it's time to make all the electrical connections. I already tested all this, but now I have to make permanent connections, replacing jumpers and the like, with permanent crimped or soldered connections. For clarity, let's look at a diagram. Power goes from the positive of the first battery through an inline fuse holder with 20 amp fuse to the negative of the second battery. This puts the batteries in series, increasing the voltage. That then goes through the power disconnect to the positive of the motor controller. The negative of the motor controller goes back to the negative of the first battery. The 3 phase wires connect to the motor. The throttle wires connect to an off-the-shelf throttle, or in this case, to a momentary on switch and the potentiometer. If you're using a multimeter display in shunt, just follow the wire diagram that came with it. There's a power on wire on the motor controller that needs battery pack positive voltage to activate the controller. We'll just connect that wire to another positive wire on the controller through the power switch on our instrument display. On the instrument display, we just need to make permanent connections with screw-down terminals or solder. The momentary on switch goes right on the handlebars. Now we can close up the panel and add a few screws to hold it in place. The gear selector knob is not threaded, it just pushes right down into place. With batteries in place and the power key inserted, we can now flip the switch on the control panel. Pushing the momentary button spins the motor, and our rotary dial sets how fast it spins. Speed can be infinitely set anywhere from a slow crawl to a brisk walk. To dump the cart, just tip it forward and let the balance do all the work. The differential allows for 360-degree turning, making it easy to work in tight spaces. Wheels and tires are easy to swap out, whether you prefer ag tires, turf savers, or run flats. If the batteries run low, you can simply pop them out and swap them for fresh ones. The multi-speed transmission offers 3 speeds and reverse, and now the machine also has adjustable electronic speed control. The rugged 11 cubic foot tub handles whatever you throw at it, and this cart can carry big loads no matter what terrain you're on. Quiet, rugged, powerful. An electric wheelbarrow is ready for anything.